So imagine waking up around 6:30 in the morning. It's cold outside and you already know that you are in for a challenging day. You get dressed, your brother, your mom is rushing around the apartment trying to just get everything right because you know that you have to make your way to school. But it's not a very simple process every single day to do that. Not only do you have to brave the cold of the Northeast, but also you go outside knowing you're going to get in your mom's car and it might not start. Knowing you're going to get in a car, and if it does start, you might break down on the side of the road. And when you actually get to the destination that you're going to, you are literally celebrating not only the fact that you got there, but that your mom has less stress. Because money didn't grow on trees in our house, and I'm sure it didn't grow on trees in yours, and people worked hard. But the reality is, like many of you, I came from a place that, to be quite honest, was a struggle, especially financially. I personally remember going to the bus stop, looking down at my shoes, knowing I needed new shoes because I had holes in them, seeing my mother work really hard, trying to push us to the next level, having government assistance, seeing my mom go to a trade school to get a better job, eventually finding a better job, and remember celebrating the fact that she pushed through to just get a little bit better, not even in the green, but just a little bit better. And why am I telling you this story? Because some of you are making mediocrity your foundation. And a lot of people are a part of the woe is me crowd. They're out there, they're working, but when one thing goes wrong, they stop working. Or if something is taken away from them, they feel like it's the end of the world. And then there are people out there who are saying, I'm working, I'm doing it, just like in fitness, and you do something for maybe a month or 2 months, and because you aren't getting the goal or the results that you actually want, you want to throw in the towel. The reality is transformation and change takes time. It just does. And I am going to use myself as an example today because I want you to know that no matter where you are in your journey, be it fitness, finances, relationship, maybe you're trying to start a new business, no matter where you are, not only do you have to continue to work hard, but it's going to be challenging. It's like when people say to me, if they see me doing insanity and they're like, oh my gosh, I can never do that. It's easy for you. No, insanity is never easy for me. Why? Because it was designed for me to use my body to push my body to the next level. And while I might be in better condition to actually do that workout, I still am required to push myself to the next level. And a lot of people out there need to understand that you need to do that with your life. This whole trying to give up and also make excuses because you aren't where you want to be is not going to get you to the goal. It's just not going to get you there. What's going to get you there is changing your foundation. And today on Tears for Transformation, I'm going to help you change your foundation, even if you are one of those people that are highly successful, highly driven, super proactive, what I like to call a task-oriented person, and you're pushing through. You too, like me, will also encounter turbulence, will encounter barriers that are going to want to stop you along the way. And today, we are going to push through that. So no matter where you are in your life, or no matter where you came from, you have to understand that you have to carry the desire to push through. Now, I'm not one of those people out there that's like, every single person can be a millionaire, because it's just not possible. Not everyone is designed to be a millionaire. Not everyone is designed to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone is designed to work in a corporate environment. We're not all designed to do the same exact thing. But what you do have within you is the desire, the push, the internal motivation to want to be just a little bit better. And I don't believe in a whole 1% better every day, because that means I'll be 365% better at the end of the year. And I just don't think that's possible. What I believe is that if you take actions, individual small actions that actually help you change your behaviors every single day, you will transform in a way that will be greater. And I'll explain what I mean by greater than the end result. Because The small changes that you decide to make are going to be the things and the tools and the magnets, I should say, that help you stick to the continuum, meaning they are the things that's going to help you stay absolutely consistent with what it is that you want in your life. So we're going to break this down. I'm going to break this down for you. And then I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial because, again, I'm not from a very, affluent area, where I grew up, and a lot of you may not be. We oftentimes talk about like, I got to get out of the hood. I got to get out of the hood. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then oftentimes people who actually get out of the hood look back at people and they're like, well, you just got to work hard. And it's not that easy because if you really think about it, a lot of people, the true hood, a lot of people that get out of the hood, they get out because of sports, that determination, that desire, they actually have that motivation like, man, like I don't want to live like this, or I am attaching to that sport. Or a lot of people, it's academics. They're like, I just need to push through. And a lot of that starts from inside the house. I know, me specifically, the foundation of why I actually want to push comes from a lot of things, but my mom required us to get good grades, do the homework, make the honor roll, do the chores, all of those small little things. Half the time you don't want to go to school or you don't want to do the chores. You kind of just want to play outside and play sports. But all of those things that you did as a child that you didn't want to do, for me, they still come into play every single day as a almost 47-year-old man. Like I'm still, and not in a traumatic way. It's like, hey, a car in motion stays in motion because that's really what it's about. And that's why I say I didn't know when I was 7, 8 years old, going through a very traumatic time. I couldn't tell you that almost 30 years later in my upper 40s that I would be where I am today. But what I did was I was like, I'm going to connect to this experience. Even as a very young kid, obviously a lot of you know I was sexually abused. So not only was I dealing with that on a daily basis, I actually think, and I hate to say, it positively influenced me to want to be better, to get out of this situation, to actually want to have a better life. But I also remember just as a kid, especially when it came to the honor roll, I remember sitting in school and being like, no, I'm going to study hard. I'm going to make this. I want to actually feel that success of education. And so when I look back, the foundation of where I came from and why I am today, obviously has a lot to do with the way I was raised, my mother, my grandparents. My grandfather was a pastor of a church, so I actually understand and know what it's like to have your own business. I would sneak downstairs in the basement where my grandfather would record his radio show, which was kind of like his weekly podcast. It was a Christian radio show. I remember looking at his, tape recorder and everything. I'm like, oh my God, this is so boring. Like, what is he talking about? And here I am, like I said, 30 plus years later, and I'm that guy. And so for me, it was really important when I was younger to internalize these experiences and really just like watch, stare, and look. Even being in church, I didn't want to be in church. There was nothing about me that wanted to be in church. I want to be in church now. I want to be in church tomorrow. But what I did connect to was, wow, my grandfather is really passionate. He would be on the street corner with his megaphone. This is old school, just talking to people. And it was actually really amazing and fantastic to see how we stand back and look at people who we seem to say, I'm better than, and they are able to connect to someone who is putting out really good energy and passion to help them change. So when I'm seeing that as a kid, I'm like, wow, I just remember standing there, not really paying attention to the message. I was more paying attention to how my grandfather was helping change these people's behaviors and their mindset shifts, and then seeing them come to church on Sunday, and at the end of the service, seeing them walk up and accept Jesus Christ as their personal savior. And it was always this like internal emotional moment watching my grandfather make and help make changes into people's lives. And I say all that to say, I bring that into play because if you've never done that, if you've never internalized the small wins that you have to attach to in order to actually be able to celebrate the big win, and it's more than just the big win. When you get through the finish line of that goal and that excitement of actually feeling accomplished, if you actually take the small wins along the way, like they need to be in your Santa sack as you continue to go on your journey. If you do that, oh, getting through the finish line is going to feel absolutely incredible and so much better. The reason why I thought about this is because I was training with Justin. So shout out to Justin. And, we were just talking about how people complain more than they actually take the reins and actually do something. And I think it's actually a natural human behavior to just complain when something's not going your way. It's a natural human behavior, and I see it all the time for people to put blame on everybody else and everything else except themselves. Now, there is reason for people to do that. There are people that hurt you, knock you off your rocker, do all those things to actually put you in a place where you are. Again, I'm always going to say what I'm about to say, you may not agree with, or it may not necessarily pertain to everyone out there, but I will say that no matter who knocked you off, who pushed you down, the situation that you encountered, at some point you have to take responsibility for the choices that you make in order to make the change and put yourself and get yourself back on the railroad tracks to continue to push forward. Because if you only focus on the woe is me, I always call people, I'm like, this is the woe is me crowd. If you only focus on that, then what are you going to focus on? You're focusing on what you don't want. And so before I get into some very specific motivation and giving you very specific tips, I want to say something that's very, very important. If you focus on what you don't want, you're not going to get what you want. If your constant focus is, I can't do that, this is too hard, I can't lose weight, that food's nasty, I don't like my job, this person at my job gets on my nerves, getting involved in the gossip. If you focus on all of that, the thing that you're actually complaining about will never be within reach. And I may have said this story before, but it will always stick with me forever. It was when I played tennis, and I played tennis 2 sessions a day, 2 hours a day. I had a coach. I was in it. I was like this. I was determined to get one professional tennis point so I could say I was a professional tennis player. Now, I never got my professional tennis point. However, I've had a court named after me, and I've played and hit with pros. So I kind of, I love it, and I want to get back to it. But right now I'm a little thick. I was in a practice one day, and for that week, for some reason, my ball just kept going a little bit too long, more times than I wanted. It was probably like 3 out of 10, but for 3 out of 10 for me is 100, is 10 out of 10, because I'm just annoyed. And I just remember I just kept hitting the ball out, and I got off the court. I'll be honest, true athletes will understand. Like, I got off the court and I was crying. I was like so mad because I had a tournament, and I was like, I need to lock in this forehand. It was always my forehand because my backhand was the ish. But I just remember I was crying. My coach, she sat me down and she was like, how about you focus on what you want instead of focusing on what you don't want? And this light bulb went off in my head because I was hitting the ball, focusing on trying not to hit it out, instead of hitting the ball, trying to focus on what I do to need to hit it in. And the minute that mindset shifted, she actually made me take like 10 minutes, and I hated taking breaks. I was like, no, like it's 45 seconds. I want to get up. I want to go. She made me take a break. We sat there, we talked, I calmed down. She was like, there's no need for you to continue to try to succeed in the headspace that you're in. Now, if you're in a match, you got to figure it out quick. But I really believe that's what practice is about. And so after that 10 minutes, I remember getting up and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is crazy. I just changed my mindset and like, focus on what you want. This is my target. This is my target. Not like, oh my God, am I going to hit this ball in? Am I going to hit this ball out? And so you can do the same thing too. When it comes to your food, you have to focus on what you want. You want to eat healthy. Don't say, oh my God, I have to eat healthier. Oh my gosh, I ate this, or this tastes so good, or I have to give up this food. Like, yeah, if you want the result, You have to give up the things that you don't want to make the result not reachable or not attainable. My videographer, who's sitting right on the other side of the camera, like he works an overnight job and he's like, I want to enhance my career. I want a new career. I want to push myself to the next level. I want to build a business. So he gets off of work and he comes and films me and other people and is fully committed and fully exhausted. Now, I believe that sleep is important, but I can relate to that because at some point, you're going to have to be like, all right, I'm going to have to sacrifice. I'm going to have to sacrifice sleep. I'm going to have to sacrifice going out with my friends. I'm going to have to sacrifice making new friends. I'm going to have to sacrifice maybe instead of working out 5 days a week, I'll maybe only get 3 days a week. And if I do go 5 days a week, I might only be able to do 40 minutes instead of an hour and 20 minutes. Like there is sacrifice to you pushing to the next level. But you have to focus on what you want. Here's one of the most amazing things that Justin said yesterday that really sparked this conversation. He was like, things take time, and then I was just like, he was like, sometimes it takes 7 years, sometimes it takes 10 years, depending on where you start from. There are people who grow up in families that have already had, great financial support. Their parents were successful. They have the money. They're able to go to the schools and do all the things. And I don't knock that person. Before I'd be like, oh, maybe they had it easy because they had parents that had X, Y, and Z. But as a person that came from a place that was on food stamps, got free lunch in school, couldn't buy the warm food at the corner store because I was on food stamps, I know what it's like. And I know how hard you have to push to make it. So now, as an adult that's very successful in a successful relationship with children, I'm able to say, yes, I'm happy to be able to provide for my family and for my kids, and they have a great foundation of financial structure. But for me, I'm like, I'm still going to make you work. I'm not one of those people, because I saw a video one day where someone was like, I'm going to make my kids struggle like me. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to use what I've built to help build them up. And I love having these conversations with my kids because now they don't say, for the first 5-6 years of their life, they're asking questions, they need help, this, that, and the third. Like, of course, I'm going to give it to you. I'm teaching you lessons along the way. My kids could probably do a podcast on all the things I tell them that they should and shouldn't do and how to live life about people. But I remember I think it was just a few days ago, I sat down and I said, hey guys, you guys are asking for a lot of things. You're getting older. You're meeting friends. You're learning about new things. I was like, next time you ask me for something, or from now on when you ask me for something that has to deal with money, how about you say, Papa, what can I do to earn X, Y, and Z? What can I do to earn Robux? What can I do to earn some money to go to the Pokemon store to do some trading cards? So now, they have a wallet. Now they're like, oh, okay. And, I made them repeat after me, and we talked about why, because, initially they were like, well, you're my dad. Like, you should give me the things. And so now they're very excited to be like, can I take out the trash? Can I clean the bathroom? Because I'm just instilling in them that you have to do the work. And I'm not giving you all the money that you want. You have to build it up. You have to save it. You have to put it in your wallet. The next thing we're going to do is get them a bank account. But anyway, I say all that to say my kids aren't in a situation where they don't have money and they see me struggling to try and get money, but it's still my responsibility to teach them about the power of internal motivation to want to do things to earn what you're going to get. That is the most important thing. You have to not be afraid to be able to put in the work. Last thing before I get into some detailed facts that I know that are going to really, really help you push forward is, I take myself, for instance, at 19 years old, I just remember being like, oh my gosh, like, I don't like the way I look. I remember getting on the treadmill, running for 10 minutes a day, then eventually finding the courage to go in the weight room. Then changing my major from communications to sports science, adding a dance minor, getting certified to teach all the classes, doing all the things. And that was 19. I didn't get hip hop abs until I think I was 28 or 29. So that was 10 years of really hard work, struggling, working 2 jobs. I would get up at 4:20 in the morning to drive 45 minutes to work. This is not a complaint. I actually think back to this and I love it. I would get up at 4:20 a.m., drive 45, sometimes 50 minutes to work, depending on traffic, open up a gym, teach classes, personal train, come up with programming, also getting promotions along the way. I'm getting promotions as I'm doing that. So wait a minute. But then I would be able to leave work at 1:30. I would go home. I would take a nap at 4:30 to 9:30 at night. I would teach dance. I would start with the little kiddos, like 4 and 5 years old. And then obviously I taught up to the, older teenagers and adults. And so this was almost every single day, obviously except for Saturday and Sunday. But on Saturday and Sundays, I had classes too. But my point is, this started at 19, and at 29 years old, I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this is really, really crazy and really, really amazing. And so 10 years later, which is obviously one more year, so now almost 30 years old, and the Hip Hop Abs infomercial aired, and 2 weeks after it aired, I remember Lara Ross, who is my producer, just saying to me, I just want to let you know, like, your financial problems are over. She was like, not only is this program going to be super successful, but because of who you are and how hard you work and your talent, she's like, you're going to be like, your career is going to be amazing. Now, at that time, I was just celebrating the fact that I was like, going to have money initially. And then I remember going to buy my first truck, cash, $80,000, like, boom, like I don't have a car payment anymore. I'm not going to break down on the side of the road. My mirrors aren't broken. So all of those things. And it was motivation for me. But my point is, it took me a solid 10 years of being fucking exhausted. Now, was I doing things that I absolutely love? Yeah, I was dancing. I was a model. I was doing all the things, but I had to go to auditions. Anybody who lives in LA that has gotten into the industry, or even New York models and actors and Broadway people, will tell you that when you see us on stage, it is glamorous because we are living a passion and living a dream. But when that job is over, you got to be ready to get another one until you find a way to really make it and make it sustainable for you. So with that said, I want to give you a little motivation and help you understand the truth is, when you're going after something, be it weight loss, job, relationship, making things better, you have to want to be in it for the long haul. And that's not to feel daunting, but like I said in the beginning, if you focus on the small wins, those small wins are going to be the fuel to help push you. When you are learning how to do a back tuck or a back flip, I don't know if anybody has done that or do, but I was a cheerleader, and I remember I did do gymnastics as a kid, but when I was a cheerleader, I was now like 19 years old and much bigger. And I remember practicing my back tuck and just having my coach, first it was like a hard push, and then it was light push, and then it was just like a push on my back to get me over. But all of those small wins are those small little pushes that are going to get you over that hump to help you feel successful. So I'm going to go into some ways to really help you feel successful. If you're not driving, if you're able to listen, if something sparks your interest, please write it down so you can look back and look at those notes and be like, yo, like, I want to actually try this because I believe this is going to work for me. So I first want to say, this is about teaching you how to not be mediocre. Now, before I get into some science, I want to teach you how not to be mediocre and why you shouldn't, and why you are sometimes being mediocre and not knowing it. So just listen up and really take this as, someone who, I always say to people, I'm your biggest fan. I am literally your biggest fan because I know there are people who've been through worse things than me, but I also know what it's like to pull yourself out of the depths of destruction to want to push forward. So here we go. Do you say data or data? Well, at my house, we say data. And for the longest time, I thought paying a fortune on my monthly data plan was normal. That was until I found out about Mint Mobile and their premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. All plans come with high-speed data or data, your choice, and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. No matter how you say it, don't overpay it. Shop data plans at mintmobile.com/Shaun T. That's mintmobile.com/Shaun T. Upfront payment plan of $45 for 3-month 5 GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Here are 7 ways people choose to stay mediocre. And I'm going to give you some cognitive insights so you actually understand. And I'm going to be very specific. So the first one is fear of change. That's why I talk about my book. The first superpower is getting uncomfortable. People have a fear of change because change is abnormal. Change is definitely going to push you in a place that's going to cause you to have to do things that you are afraid of or that you don't know you're going to be successful at. So we're going to talk specifically, and I know a lot of people say this online, but I don't know if a lot of people actually understand, because sometimes when people say scientific things online, they say it because other people say it, but I don't even know if they really understand what they're saying. But we're going to talk about cognitive dissonance. So cognitive dissonance theory explains that people experience discomfort when their beliefs or behaviors conflict. So when your belief, things that you know you should do, like when you know you should do, and those behaviors conflict. Like, I know I should do this, but I'm not going to practice the behaviors to actually meld these things together so that I can actually achieve what it is that I want. Those two things have to meld together. Changing one situation can create dissonance, leading to avoidance of change to maintain comfort. So when you avoid change and you maintain comfort, you're not moving. You're staying stagnant. It's not going to happen. And so I want to tell you that and push that in your mindset, because you have to want to say, I'm going to step into this haunted house of change. Because when you step into a haunted house of change that's going to make you better, you're going to immediately see, even when things are really tough and hard, you're going to immediately see like, oh my goodness, I literally can't believe that I was afraid to do this. Because this, while it is tough and I'm going to learn my way through it and I'm going to get stronger, like this actually makes me feel better. The push makes me feel better. It's like when you finish that insanity workout, you're like, fuck you, Shaun, halfway through. And then you're finished and you're laying on the floor and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I completed that. You feel good. Number 2, negative environment. I'm going to do a whole podcast on the negative environment of people, but the social learning theory talks about that individuals learn behavior through observation and imitation. If people are surrounded by complacency, they may unconsciously adopt those behaviors as normative. In my book, I talk about you're the average of the 5 closest people to you. Now, I'm not saying you have to always level up. I'm not always saying that all your friends have to be millionaires, because I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. I would much rather take a friend who is just starting out their business. I have a really good friend. I'll tell you this. One of my favorite people on the planet, I met him in the gym. I met him because he had great tattoos. His name is Zane, and his drive and motivation and excitement me as somebody who's already successful, like, made me so happy. He used to live in Arizona. He moved to Nashville. And every so often we'll text, and I'm always like, oh my God, like I actually get positively emotional. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I love you, because I see this person on the come up. When I met him, he had just graduated, not long before that had graduated from ASU, like young, I think it was like 21. He's not, at his peak, obviously, because he's young, just out of college, but I'm using him as an example because I would much rather be around 5 people that are pushing themselves to be better and making it happen, and their bank account may not be thick yet, than people who maybe somewhat successful, lazy, maybe putting other people down. You know what I'm saying? So it's not all about like, I'm going to surround myself with people they look like they live this lavish life. Because a lot of those people, while most people who are at that level, they won't put people down because obviously they know the hard work. But oftentimes, some people who are there are not necessarily the ones that you should be around, right? So it's not about how much money or how little money someone has that you should surround yourself with them. It is who they are, the drive, the motivation, the positivity. Do they want to lift you up? Do you want to lift them up? If you're feeling down, like these people around you are the ones that are cognitively affecting your behaviors. You're like, oh man, like that person's doing that. I just told you a story about Robert. I always think like, damn, like that must be so freaking exhausting. And then I think to myself, I'm like, yeah, it's exhausting because I basically put myself through that. So it's always a reminder too, when you see people working hard and working at a level that you may have been through as well, like this is a good thing. Like this is good. This is good to be around those people. Obviously, it's good to be around people who have successful businesses, who treat people right and everything. But I'm just saying, it's not all about, I'm going to go for people like, I'm going to level up. Level up is not always have to deal with money. Leveling up is have to deal with how good the human is, how they treat you, what they're doing to inspire and motivate you to help your behavior change, level up. Next thing I'll talk about is limited self-belief. According to the self-efficacy theory, individuals with low self-efficacy believe in their ability to succeed are less likely to take on challenges. This can lead to a cycle of mediocrity as they avoid situations where they might fail. So I see it a lot in fitness. I can't do that. That's too hard. You know what I mean? Like that, you're limiting your belief. When I see something that's really crazy, and you can DM my husband, Scott, right now. You could just send a DM, ask him. When I see something that's hard, that's crazy, that's nearly impossible, except for jumping out of an airplane, I will not be doing that. I will not be jumping out of an airplane unless you give me $1 million. And I know $1 million to a lot of people isn't a lot of money, but that's how much, that's how much it's going to take for me to jump out of an airplane. But you can DM Scott and be like, yo, what does Shaun do when something's like really, really hard? He's going to say, I turn on the afterburners to go through that because I refuse to limit my belief in something. I would much rather try and fail because failure is a part of success. I would much rather try hard to do something that scares me that instead of saying like, I'm going to limit my belief in my ability to do it. I'm going full steam ahead. You need to go full steam ahead. If you want to start that t-shirt company, even if it's just small on Poshmark, go full steam ahead. Just go ahead and do it. I have two things that are coming out very soon that, kind of make me nervous. It's two new businesses basically. But I'm like, I have trained my brain to go after the things that scare me, especially if I'm passionate about it. So next, I'm going to talk about comfort with routine, your comfort zone. The brain prefers efficiency. I want you to sit with that for a second. The brain prefers efficiency. Established habits are stored in the basal ganglia, making them easier to execute. This can lead to a reliance on routine, even when it becomes unproductive or unsatisfying. So if your routine is comforting, and it's so comforting that you don't get a boost of dopamine because you are changing what it is that you want to do, you're not changing, right? So you have to start to change the behaviors, develop routines that are a little bit challenging that get you closer to where it is that you want to be and how you want to feel. Next is avoidance of responsibility. Because there's a lot of, they say when you point one finger at one person, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. Like you have to take responsibility for your actions. Attribution theory suggests that individuals often attribute their success or failures to external or internal factors. Those who consistently blame external factors for their shortcomings may avoid taking responsibility, reinforcing complacency. Look, I'm going to I follow this woman on TikTok, and she always says, "I'm gonna hold your hand with a napkin in between when I say this." It's so funny. As someone who's been through a lot, especially those of you who are sexual abuse survivors, what it can do to your brain is really, really crazy. So what I'm about to say is, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but you have to work very hard on that internal power, that internal strength. You have to work so hard it feels like you're lifting weights with your entire being, the internal, the external, that you're pushing every single day so that you can actually get out of that, right? You can't avoid what's happening inside. You have to actually go after it, push it, make it feel better. And then you start to not feel bad about yourself, and you're like, I'm not going to avoid what happened to me, but I'm going to start to go for it. I'm going to start to push. I'm going to start to, like, again, get uncomfortable. Okay, next we're going to have fear of failure. Oh man, fear of failure is obviously one of the things that it's the reason why a lot of people don't start. It's the reason why you probably still have your big insanity box collecting dust. You're like, I've never done it because I think it's going to be too hard. But now you can go stream it and you could just push play and I'm there. But fear of failure, the amygdala, responsible for the processing of emotions, can trigger fear responses. The fear can inhibit risk taking, leading to avoidance of situations when one might fail, thereby maintaining mediocrity. When you fear failure, you're literally doing the opposite of what it is that you want to do. And that's why I said to DM Scott, we're going to call it the DM Scott theory. Go full steam ahead at something that you are afraid of. Go full steam ahead. So the last thing on this side is lack of goals. Goal setting theory emphasizes that specific and challenging goals lead to higher performance. Without clear goals, the brain lacks direction, leading to aimless behavior and complacency. I did a presentation in my Transform and Thrive group. I have a 10-week group right now. So great. I might do another one at the end of the year, so make sure you look out for it. But, we were talking about there's such a high percentage of people who, because they don't actually do goal setting, that's pretty much the number one reason why they're not moving forward. I can talk about serious goal setting in another podcast. All right, I'm going to zip through these last 7 ways to stop all of that and help put you in a better place. So number one, like we said, set clear goals. Utilize SMART criteria. I actually went over this in my group. The SMART criteria is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So think about that. Like, that's how you create goals. Be smart about it. Number two, surround yourself with growth-minded individuals. Talked about that. Instead of just focusing on the people who are going to feed you what you want to hear, focus on people who are going to be like passionately and kindly challenging. You want people to tell you the truth. You want to be around people that push you. That's the reason why I'm bodybuilding. I met Kristen. I'm like, oh man, not only is she destroying, well, she's helping my shoulder get better and it was in so much pain, but not only that, then she started training me. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm learning more from her because she's a doctor, bringing my actual degree in kinesiology life back into existence. One of the biggest things I love to tell people is to continue to be a student. If you continue to be a student, you're going to always learn and you're going to always grow. Next is embrace discomfort. You already know what I feel about that. If it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because you know it's going to be tough, but it's going to get you closer to a place, I want you to go for it. Do it. Live in it. Cognitive behavioral approaches suggest that facing fears can reduce anxiety and build resilience. So if you have anxiety about it, going after it is going to release that anxiety. And anxiety in general, what I've realized is anxiety is like you trying to predict the future. Like you're anxious about what's going to happen, but you don't know what's going to happen because the time hasn't come yet. And if you're not creating actions to make that better and you're just avoiding it altogether, then you're never actually going to see what can happen if you actually put the hard work into it. Develop a growth mindset. I want to talk about Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset shows that believing in the ability to grow and improve can significantly impact motivation and achievement. Cultivating this mindset encourages persistence in the face of setbacks. Next, we have reflection and assess. How many of you look in the mirror and you're like, man, like I did that. I'm celebrating that. I went for it. Or how many of you look in the mirror and not necessarily physically look in the mirror, but kind of look within and be like, I need to do better. I need to do a little bit more. I need to push myself a little bit more. So you have to develop that growth mindset because it encourages persistence in the face of those setbacks. Next, we have reflect and assess, because this helps you recognize patterns of complacency that need addressing. So always, like I was saying, look in the mirror, reflect on it, assess it. Like, don't be afraid to assess and do a poll on yourself. You know, when you finish an event, you put out a poll, like, what do people like? What do people dislike? Do a poll on yourself. Taking responsibility, huge. Cognitive restructuring involves changing the way you think about your circumstances by reframing challenges as opportunities for growth. You can faster get a sense of responsibility. So you want to be able to be like, I want to gain this new responsibility faster. And the last one, create a plan for change. I always say perfection is temporary, change is constant. You're going to change more than you are going to be perfect. There are perfect moments that happen throughout the day, but if you do that one thing or focus on that one skill or focus on that one behavior, it could be the same thing every single day for 30 days. If you just focus on it, change will start to happen. And that will start to restructure your brain. And when you restructure your brain, you start to think positive. And when you start to think positive, you continue to go after it. So by incorporating these cognitive science principles, you can literally change your life. And the foundation that you stand on will not be mediocre. I love to provide you with just information that's going to help you continue to transform. You know, they call me Shaun T, and T is for transformation. And continue to believe in who you are and never give up on your goals.